This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Patricia W. Fisher with Readers Entertainment Radio. It is November 7th. Can you even believe we are already to November? It's crazy. And, of course, it's Thor's Day because it's Thursday. And so we want to say, wherever you are, Chris Hemsworth, we would love to have you on the show someday, so I'm sure you'll be there. But somebody else who's a superstar, it is Kaylee Newell's birthday today, and she is a fellow Tule author, and we totally love you, Kaylee, so happy birthday today. And it is also Read for the Record Day, and it is a program where people read the same book all over the world and encourage literacy. So Thank You, Omu is the book, and it is in English as well as Spanish, so pick it up if you have a chance. It looks like a delightful, delightful read. But today we are going to talk to this fabulous author named Jeannie Moon, and I'm dialing her up right now. She's going to be here with us in just a second, and I'm super excited because
Hi,
Jeannie
how are you?
She's one of my favorite people in the world. She and I and Kaylee wrote with Tule Publication for the Men of Marietta series. That's how I got to meet her. And I'm going to do a quick intro of you here, Jeannie. You were an avid reader as a child, read everything you could get your hands on. And as you grew, you added sweeping epics by Danielle Steele and Judith Krantz to your library. You married your high school sweetheart. You live in Long Island, New York with your hubs and dogs, and you're near your kids and your super sweet, cute grandbaby. Yeah. And you've been a teacher and a librarian collectively for over 30 years, correct?
Yes.
And now you have best-selling romance author to add to your list of accomplishments.
I do. It's always a little bit weird to hear that.
I know. It's like, wait, what?
What?
So, I mean, you wanted to. Did you want to write when you were young, or did you want to just loved reading?
I did write actually when I was young, and I love to read. I read the first book I stayed up well past my bedtime to read, 2:00 in the morning, was Charlotte's Web. I was 8. And my mother got up to go to the bathroom and found me in my bed crying, and then she stayed up with me and finished the book. And I didn't go to school the next day. But my first writing attempt was a year later. I had been assigned a book to read for a book report. My teacher said, "This is what you're going to read for your book report," and I didn't like it, so I wrote my own. Okay. And I wrote my own book, and I turned it in, and she gave me some credit for it. I still had to do a book report, but I was able to pick the book myself. So that was my victory. But I wrote my own book. It was called Night of the Living Dolls.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and it was about a girl who had to do all this work all the time, and she was so downtrodden because at that point I hated the fact that my mother actually made me do chores.
Sure.
And the dolls would wake up at night and they would do all the things for her. That was what it was.
Wow. See, now we all need that, actually.
Actually, we do. Actually, we do. And then in high school, I wrote stories, and I had a binder full of stories that I would loan out to my friends. And those were very angsty, melodramatic romances for teenagers. Yeah. So, and then
did they ever
include
your hubs? Did you ever include your husband in the angstiness
No, I
of
didn't.
the teenage drama? Cause you were
No,
sweetheart,
I didn't.
So.
I met him when we were 17, and I was kind of past it at that point. I tucked my angsty stories away. At that point, I was on the school newspaper, and I was focusing on journalism, which I eventually went on to major in college.
And then you go into journalism, and then is it? So when I got my journalism degree, I did a broadcast journalism internship at KSDK there in St. Louis, and I was all like, "Oh, this is going to be awesome," and it was completely awesome. But it was like, "Oh, I don't think this is what I want to do when I have kids." It was just like the balance just wasn't going to be there for me.
Yeah, and the thing
Did
is
you have
that
the same kind of
I
thing?
actually started out, I did a whole stint on, we had a great radio station at college, and I did that, and my internships were all in public relations. I worked for
Mhm.
some local teams, I worked in the press box, I did sports writing, and then I did some work in the city a little bit, and it just wasn't for me. And the thing is, I always wanted to be a teacher. I had said I wanted to be a teacher from the time I was 12 years old, and through high
Mhm.
school, the guidance counselors, everybody said you'll never get a job. There are no jobs. You'll never get a job. I finally just said the hell with it, and I quit my job. I went back to a year or so after I graduated from college. I worked for a year. I went back to school and got my master's, and I became an English teacher. And
Mhm.
I have never not worked. I have never not had a job
Right.
ever.
Right.
So
Yeah. Anytime someone always says English teacher around my kids, they all go English teacher and English teacher.
Yep, I did that for 10 years. It was so cool. It was so
Yeah.
much fun. And then I became
And
a
then
librarian, which
you
is
became
also
a
fun.
librarian, right?
Yeah.
So did you? So I have friends of mine that have done the library science and masters. Did you need to go
Mhm.
back and get that, or was
Yeah,
that
I
something you
did. I got an
transitioned over to?
MLS from St.
Okay.
John's University. Yep.
Okay. And what? Okay. So I'm curious because, and I know this is totally off topic because we're not talking about your book yet, but we will.
Mhm.
What does a library science require? I mean, what are you studying?
Oh gosh. Well, I got mine in 1990. The degree was conferred in 1996. So we were
Okay.
really only just getting into computers. Like at that
Okay.
point, we had CD-ROM reference sources, and we were able to log on to very rudimentary catalogs at that point.
Mhm.
So what I did was it was multi-pronged. I did literature study, so I was studying children's literature, young adult literature, literature for multicultural populations, things of that nature. Then I had
Okay.
management courses, so budgeting, finance,
Okay.
grant writing, all that. And then I had my reference courses, which were I had to learn how to research everything. And I had to do it in
Okay.
mostly in books. And then also
Right.
we learned bibliographic control, which is cataloging.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
it was
So a
daunting,
lot,
honestly.
because people, yeah, I mean, it sounds like it, because the people are like, oh, well, libraries, you just have to know the Dewey Decimal System. Like, well, no, it's got to be
Mhm.
more than that because there's an entire master's degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't even occur to me about the grant writing, and I mean,
Yeah.
that's its own course, I would assume.
It is. And the Dewey Decimal System is one, but there's also Library of Congress, and then there's Sears subject headings, and then there's other subject headings. So you had to learn how to apply different things. So I could literally, if you handed me a button, I couldn't do it now, but
Mhm.
when I graduated from library school, I could have cataloged that button.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I could have cataloged it in what we call realia, and it would have been cataloged, and I could have made it so it could circulate from a library. So
So
it's very
you
precise.
were you've got all these degrees, and you've got
Mhm.
now you're teaching, and you have kids and everything. And then what was the catalyst for you to say, you know what, I think I'm going to just go ahead and write that first book, like really sit down and write that first romance?
Oh gosh, I always thought I had a book in me, and I had probably at that point 3 started notebooks with notes on something, and I knew it was there. One day I had been out grocery shopping. It was the year 2000. I can tell you what day it was. It was the 3rd anniversary of my mother's death.
Okay.
And I came home from grocery shopping. I dropped the bags and looked at my husband. It was a Saturday afternoon. And I said, "It's here." And he goes, "What?" I go, "The book." I said, "The whole thing." I go, "It's right there." And he goes, "Okay, I got this." He goes, "You go downstairs." He goes, "Knock out what you can." And I
Okay.
came out of the office like 3 hours later with like 10 pages of ideas, like almost a synopsis.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. And then I spent the next 9 months writing it. Um, it was fine in the summer, and then I had to go back to work in the fall.
Sure.
So I was writing at night, late. and I had to fight with the kids for the computer because they had schoolwork. And that was when my husband bought me my first laptop for Christmas. So I finished the book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I actually then, polished it up for a few weeks and started sending it out because it was fabulous, right? It was
of
awful.
course it was.
It was awful. It was so bad. But I got this great rejection letter, and everybody says a great rejection, and it was a great rejection. I had gotten a request from an editor at New American Library, NAL, which was part of Penguin Group, and they published romances, and they requested the full, and I thought, this is it. I'm going to sell my book. And 3 weeks later, I got the package back because I sent off a print copy of this book. I got the whole thing back with a very nice letter, basically telling me all the things that were wrong with it, kindly.
Okay.
But then she said, however, I don't want you to get discouraged. You have a wonderful voice. You have a wonderful grasp on emotion, and that's not easy to teach. Everything else you can learn. Join your local RWA chapter.
Oh, okay.
And
all right.
That's where I learned, and that's what I did. And I got to say thank you to her at an RWA conference, about 5 years ago. And,
really?
Yeah, I did. And I went up and I said, you hate going up and saying you rejected me once because they're going to start to like cringe away. But I said, but this is okay. And I thanked her for that.
Some people get really aggressive about it.
They do. And I said, your encouragement, I said, kept me going. I said, it kept me going. I said, and you believed in me. I said, and ultimately, NAL published my first series. So the Forever Love series. So yeah.
That's amazing to go through that process and then be able to say thank you. But you're right. I have been at conferences where people are like, oh, you're so-and-so. You rejected me 6 times. And, of course, the editor's standing there just thinking if I could be anywhere else
anywhere
else,
else.
I would be anywhere else.
I approached it differently, and it took me 12 years to get my first contract because I was learning the ropes and going through the whole submission process before self-publishing had really hit its stride. And traditional publishing was really the only place to go. If you self-publish, it was considered vanity press, and I wasn't. That wasn't what I was looking for. So I look back now and I see these big people who started like in 2011 and whatever, and they done great. But 2012 was when I ended up getting my first contract. So I kept at it for a long time, and it was funny because that first book, I actually ended up taking the characters out of it and the general premise, and it became my first Christmas book for Thule.
Oh, wow.
So my book this Christmas actually came out of the book I had called Playing Field. And that's what happened. So the characters are in there. So
it's always interesting because I think with our first books we want to cram everything we've ever thought of, And I think that's the beauty of the writers group because you get the critique partners and you get the feedback, you get the craft of writing stuff. And then you realize, ideally you don't want to put all of your eggs in this basket. You want to have like 2 and then 2 in the next one. And so you don't want it to be the lovers to enemies to lovers, strangers, second chance,
This was a nightmare, and it was 122,000 words. It was like Lord of the Rings. I swear to God, it was just gigantic, and I just thought it was the most fabulous thing ever. And
of course,
I was like,
of course,
what? Yeah, and I was just very naive. But you know what? It was a process, and it was a process I needed to go through, and it helped create me as a writer because the rejections I went through, the working with an agent for a little while who wanted to represent me and then edited my book and helped me, it honed my craft. And I think that's the big advantage of how things used to be, with the very long process and the learning curve that you had to kind of get through. I don't think
Right.
that's there anymore. So when people say, I just don't think books are as good, I think partially it's because, not always, and I don't want to say that because it's unfair, and I never want to paint with one brush.
Mhm.
But I do think a lot of stuff, there was a lot of learning that took place going through this process
Yeah.
of
Oh, for sure.
rejection and revise and resubmit, and the good rejection, the bad rejection, the form letter rejection, the oh yeah, I'm never going to work with that editor because she basically just told me I sucked. The note that came back on the cover page of a book, all they did was take off the cover page of the book I'd sent them and went, not for us, and then put that
Yeah.
in an envelope and sent it back, like not even a letter. So, like and you learned, and I learned who people were, and it helped me. I think it helped
Well,
make me who I was.
I think too,
Oh,
though,
I
and
am.
I'm guilty of this. Yeah, I'm guilty of this too. Is when I started writing in 2004 for
Mhm.
fiction, I had my journalism degree and I had been writing,
Mhm.
but it was the rules to find and know in the craft of writing. All of those books are so easily obtained now, and so I think a lot of the stuff that we would get rejected for back then,
Right.
we can just download a 99-cent or a $3.99 book now, and if we're
Uh huh.
smart enough, we'll actually read the book and not just buy it.
Mhm.
But there's also, short videos on YouTube that
Yeah.
even RWA is doing. And so
Mhm.
I think that it does cut down some of the process of the whole, learning about the craft and you need to do this. But the rejection that's going to happen to all of us.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that we all walk into it thinking, oh, not me. My book's just that good.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we all say, yeah, it happened, and you live through it, and you fix
Yeah.
it, and you go on to the next thing.
And it was a good
And so,
process for me
yeah,
to go through. I learned how to be a
yeah,
professional. It
yeah,
really,
yeah,
I think that was huge for me because I learned how to deal with people. I made a lot of good contacts. People knew my name over time, like through my chapter and different things. So I think that was my advantage as I moved into it, is that as things started to roll, and when then I had written 6 books for Penguin Random House for their Intermix line, which is digital. And then when they just
hmm
didn't want my next series, and it was not anything bad. It was just that at that point, it was a small town romance, and they were kind of moving away from that, and they had just gone through a
yeah,
merger, so things were up in the air. But I could let it roll off my back a little bit. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't take it personally. I knew it was business. So
right,
I mean, it doesn't mean I liked it. I didn't, but I understood. So
yeah.
it's
And
never
I think that's
easy.
important to know because it is a business. It's numbers. It's just
Yeah,
getting down to it. There's a lot of numbers involved.
a lot of
So,
numbers,
but
and
we're
books are
yeah,
expensive to produce.
they are. Well, I'm laughing because I figured out if you had a 122,000 word book, it would be almost 500 pages long.
It was. It was like 470 something pages long or something like that, and it was in Courier. It was like, and I obsessed over the formatting. When honestly, as long as it's readable and it's not on pink paper and gimmicky, nobody really cares.
Yeah.
That's really it. It's everybody obsesses over everything, and I'm like, no, that really doesn't matter. Just make sure it's readable and has your name on it, and it's got page numbers on it because at this point that's important.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Well,
that's
you're
really it.
talking about the rejection. I remember my very first book I submitted to. It was it is still the Stiletto contest, but it was the chick
Mhm.
lit chapter. Now it's contemporary romance chapter.
Right.
And they had this, and I was just like so sure my book was just going to sweep everything because we all do. We don't enter because we think we're going to lose. So
Right.
I remember sending it in, and we had to print them, print the first 50 pages and have self-addressed stamped envelopes, and had to, it's like all this process. Nothing was digital, and I sent it in, and I could not wait to get the results back because I just knew my book
Mhm.
was fabulous. And I got it back, and I opened it up, and the first judge's thing said in big letters across the top of the judge's sheet, "I hate first person."
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, why are you judging a chick lit contest then?
Right,
Because
exactly.
Half of them are going to be that way.
That's the thing for first person, yeah.
Yeah, kind of what
gosh.
they do. So it was just such a blow, and it was just like, what do you mean you don't like my story? And then I eventually sold that book a few years later, and I fixed it. I did a lot of stuff. There were things wrong. But again, yeah, it's like that process of rejection and being prepared and knowing that if it happens, it's just what it is. It's, and I think our writers groups help us with that too.
Yeah, they do. It gives you people to buffer the impact of what happens. And, now everybody's like, aren't you upset? Like, if this happens or your contract's up, whatever. I went, no. And they went, no. I went, or don't you have books out? Like, have you checked your sales numbers? I was like, no. I was like, I can't control it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nothing in my control. So once that book is out there, I've completely lost control of it. So I just have to let the work stand out there and see what happens. So and it's very weird because I remember like refreshing Amazon like every 30 seconds, like to see how my numbers went, and I still will do that if like something's doing really well, like I'll go back and check. But if otherwise, unless somebody says, hey, by the way, your book is doing really well, I'll go, oh, okay, cool. I didn't even know the first time I hit USA Today, I hit it number 52, I think it was, or 54, which was high.
Okay.
And I was right between Oprah and Lee Childs on the list. I didn't even know until a week later. I was already.
Oh, wow.
It was a 1 week thing. I was on for a week. It was, and I hit, and the only reason I knew was because somebody congratulated me because they saw the listing on the RWA list, Romance Writers of America.
Oh.
They list the USA bestsellers or the bestsellers for that week, the week before. And my name was there, and they said, you must have hit the list. And I went back and looked. My publisher didn't know. Nobody knew. And I was like,
wow.
Well, that's anticlimactic. Like, everybody's like, oh, my God, I'm popping champagne. And I'm like, it was a week ago. My husband goes, oh, that's cool. I was like,
yeah.
I said, it's kind of a big deal.
It is kind of a big deal.
I was like, it's kind of a big deal. So I didn't even know because I hadn't checked. I didn't look.
Well, it's funny because when my first book came out, and even the first Tule book came out, we did the Men of Marietta because the way that it was set up is they were releasing. There was 5 of us, and it was 5 weeks, a new book a week.
Right.
And so mine was the last one. And was yours right before mine, or was yours the
mine
third?
Mine was third. Kaylee's was right
third.
before
You're
yours.
right in the middle.
Yeah, it was
That's
Heidi, Kate, me, Kaylee, you.
You, Kaylee, yeah. And so I remember because my mom, at first and here's the other thing, people, everyone out there, do not read your reviews. And especially
never
that
read
first
your
book.
reviews.
Just don't. And so, of course, the first book, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting all these great reviews. And then the first bad review I got, I was just devastated. And now I don't even look because
and
I just know.
And that's the only one you remember. That is the only one you remember is that one bad review. You get 40 good ones, and then you'll get one bad one, but that's the one that sticks. So what somebody told me to do was to make a folder on your computer with copies of all your 5-star reviews that you can go to when you have a bad day. And you can read those.
I have a friend of mine, Tara West, who was so brilliant. So she writes some of her scenes are pretty sexy. And so she got this review that said this book is nothing but sex. Don't buy it. So it was a 1-star review, and she actually used that to market it.
Oh yeah, you can use that as an ad.
Fantastic.
I've seen people do that, and I've actually suggested it to people. I was like, 1-star review. There's too much sex in this book. It's like, boom, that is brilliant. I think she was the first one that did it.
Yeah. Oh God. So it was so good.
She brilliant
could not stop selling books. Yeah.
Yeah.
She couldn't stop selling them. It was. Yeah. Oh, I don't want this book. It's got sex in it. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
I know. Right.
Apparently a lot.
Take my money, right?
Yes. Please do. And speaking of people needing to give them your money, you need to tell us about All of Me, which is the third book of your Compass Cove series.
Yes, All of Me. Oh God, it took me so long to write. It was, I was dealing with a really sensitive subject. I was dealing with domestic violence. And sometimes I do cross into some serious subjects. Lily was a survivor. She had left her job and everything behind in California and come home to Compass Cove. And all she wanted to do was kind of shake off the idea that she was a victim. And she never really dealt with it. But really what this book is about is not only about, the old boyfriend and the romance. It's really about Lily healing and Lily learning how to drive her own story. We often talk about agency, women's agency in romance, and I think so many people think that means sex, that they're making the decisions about their sexuality and what happens and all that, and I do believe that's true, but it also means that our stories are becoming more heroine-focused, and Lily drove that story. She made the decisions about how things were going to happen, even though she had Jack hovering, saying, well, I'm going to watch out for you, and even whether you like it or not. And Geo was there, but she pushed back because she knew that the only person who could make things better was her. So that's really what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to show her as not a victim but a survivor, and that was my whole focus. And but there's a lot to go through. She has some PTSD. She has fear. She has shame that she let this happen to her. That she had been beaten down emotionally as well. And it's that whole idea of, how did I let this happen? How did this happen? And that's where a lot of it comes in. Why we don't hear from victims is because they feel shame that this happened to them, because it was obviously their fault, that they didn't get out of it soon enough, that they let it happen. And that's not the case. So there has to be that transition. And I will interview trauma counselors, and there's a friend of mine who is a trauma counselor, and I'm always on the phone with her and going, okay, just give me this now. Tell me how I'm walking through this. And PTSD is not loud in a lot of cases. We forget that. It's not the guy standing up and, shooting up someplace or going crazy or screaming at everybody. In a lot of cases, PTSD is very quiet, especially in women. They tend to withdraw and they run away, and that's something she didn't like about herself. So, yeah, she had a lot to deal with. I'm very proud of the book. I think it does her justice. Because I didn't use the abuse as a vehicle as much as it's part of her. Her surviving is just part of who she is. So, and it helped her, all the healing helped her grow past it and take charge of things. So that's really where I was at with it. And
where did you come up with the idea of having a person who'd gone through this as your character?
She just did. That was the thing. When it happens organically like that, when I was writing her, she'd been in the first two books as a secondary character. So we knew that she'd come back. We knew that she had opened her salon. We knew her background a little bit. We knew that she didn't talk about it either, why she came home. And left behind a very successful career as a hairstylist to the stars. She was a Hollywood hairstylist. She worked on movies. Yeah. She, things like that. And there was no indication as to why. And so I knew that there was something. And so what I do when I'm fleshing out a character is I start out with a big piece of paper, and I put their name in the middle, and then I just start to put words down. And I let her kind of just get in my head. And all of a sudden, it started to unroll. And then our anti-hero, our antagonist, her ex, his name came out. I had to get away from Geo, and that was it. And then I knew. And I was like, there she is. There it is. It's right there. I had to get away from Geo. And there were little things like fear came out, loss, darkness, different words that kind of populated this page. And as I started to pull together this word cloud, she kind of came out of it. And I knew her story. And it was a very weird experience, but I think that's also why it took me a while to write the book, because it took a while for her to fully open up about what story I was going to tell. So
like
this book took me longer to write than any book I've ever written. It took me almost a year. So
yeah, and she is doing that. You're talking about your character. That's what a lot of domestic violence victims would do, is they wouldn't just lay it out on the table and everything there. I mean, it would be layers. It would be one small piece at a time, one tiny bit.
Yeah, and that was it. And that's how she revealed it in the story. It kind of unfolded for different people in her life until finally she just blew it all open and took control of it and took control of the narrative and changed it. And that was what had to happen. But she had to learn to trust people with her story. And I think she had to trust me with her story. And I say that to people who are not writers, and they go, "What?" They don't quite get it. Yeah, it's like, is this a real person? I'm like, no, but she is. But she could be any survivor, and that's what I wanted to get across. But it took a while for her to come out. I mean, my hero Jack, I knew who he was. He was Dudley Do Right. I got him. And Geo, our antagonist, the abuser, he was a sociopath. Plain and simple. He was that guy who had no line. There was no line he would not cross. And just was entitled, but charming and unassuming and falsely modest. And everybody thinks a sociopath is crazy. They're not. Their whole focus is, I'm going to see who I can undo. And there are a lot of times they're very, very. It flies under the radar. Nobody expects it. So
they're very patient.
What?
They're very patient.
Very patient.
With their
process.
Very
patient.
Yeah, because if they come in, all of a sudden at once, everyone's like, "No, I don't think so." So it's got to be woven.
Yeah.
Right. So and then
they
has to go through the whole. Yeah.
They write the story. They write the narrative in your head. They get into your head. They know how to manipulate people, and they take their time with it. They earn your trust, and then they shatter it, and then it's the gaslighting. Well, I'm not like this. You must have made me this way. You must have made me do this.
Right.
And so that was it. So it was a lot of learning. I had to do a lot of learning to make sure that I wasn't just creating a caricature on the page. For him especially. Like, I couldn't make him this monster, because then why would she have been with them? There had to be something in there that brought her to that point. So, and that's what she didn't
there are
understand.
times as you're writing, because I'm sure he got very dark, and her going through her process. Were there times that you're sitting there writing and you just had to say, "Oh, okay, hold on, I gotta just stand up for a second and breathe"?
Yeah, I did, and I think that's why it took me so long, because it was very emotional and it was draining. I mean, there were times if I could write, 100 words in a day, and normally I'm a 2,000 word a day girl, 1,500 words a day. I've done that without a problem. There was one day I remember I wrote like 6,000 words or something like that. But this one, if I was lucky, some days if I got 500. It took me a very long time. A very long time.
Was there ever a time that, so I've had scenes where it's like nobody come in the office. And then, of course, everyone comes in the office. And so, and my husband walks in and I'm sobbing. It was a scene in one of my books that a person was in hospice, and it was, it was time. And and he walked in, he goes, "Hey, are you okay?" And I said, "Get out of here," because I'm ruining it. get out, I'm just killing somebody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
were there moments like that for you?
Oh yeah, sure. There were absolutely when she came to her realizations and she had to at one point in the story she faced him down. It was
Yeah.
afterwards that it was really so tough because it was like this adrenaline letdown. And I had it too. Like I sat there, like literally I had a headache for 2 days afterwards because I had her adrenaline rush as I was writing a scene, and then it collapsed around me, and I was sitting in my office just crying. And my son walked in. He's 26, and he goes, "Mom, you all right?" "I'm writing something." He went, "Okay," and he would just walk out and close the door behind him. It's like,
yeah.
He's an artist, so it's like he's okay. Like he's my artistic one. He's a writer. He's a photographer. That's him. So he's kind of like okay. If it had been one of my daughters who were both like hard science, one's an engineer, one's a physical therapist, they would have been like, take a pill, Mom. Like,
or do I need to call someone? Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. It'd be like, here, do you need something? So.
Yeah, it's. I think that's why sometimes some people don't get into they think writing's just the easiest thing in the world, and yeah, you can throw words down on a page or on a screen, sure you can, but to make anyone want to read them the way that you wanted them to hear it is definitely harder. And you really do sometimes have to get in those people's heads, and sometimes you don't want to be in those characters' heads.
No.
Because of who you've created. So
it was tough.
It's definitely scary. Yeah. And so
there are times like I'm
book,
writing, I just vibrate. Like literally, you can feel it. Like when you're going to get it. Like I'm sure you feel it too. It's like you're sitting there and they're like consuming, and all you want to do is get it out on the page. And I can feel myself vibrating with the energy. And it's the most bizarre thing in the world. And, my husband will see me and I'll be like up in the morning. I'll be up late. I can't sleep. I'm writing in the middle of the night. Like if I wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, he'll turn over and my computer's open and I'm like, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm going, I just have to write this down. And he's like, you're a lunatic. He goes, stop. He goes, you have to go to work in 3 hours. I go, I know, but I just have to write this down. So
yeah, I can lay here and stare at the ceiling, or I can write this down. I
can just let this run around in my head because it's not going away. So
yeah,
it's a little crazy, but it's fun.
So you've got this book out, and then what is your next project?
I'm actually working on 2, so this is pretty exciting. I'm working on a Christmas story for next year. I'm hoping for next year, and it's going to have 2 characters. My 2 characters are both over 50.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's a small town Christmas romance, and my hero and heroine are over 50. And so that's that. And then I'm going to be working on the 4th Compass Cove book. And then I have a rom-com floating around in my head that I want to play with. So. And that also has a seasoned heroine. She's older. So that should be fun.
So when you say older, what is that considered in the Romancelandia character?
In Romancelandia, it's actually considered 35 and up for a woman. Yeah, it's really kind of sad, but and that's why there's been such a push with seasoned romance, and there's going to be a new chapter for writers to join, and there's a very, very popular group on Facebook, the Seasoned Romance Facebook group. I suggest anybody who wants older characters and to read older characters, reader or writer, join it because it's just fantastic. Karen Booth and Maggie Wells and Natasha, they are all so wonderful about it, and they've created a really great community. But for a long time, romance heroines were supposed to be in their 20s. Yeah. And, you know, you could get away with early 30s, and mine tend to be in their early 30s, mid-30s. But older is a problem. Older than 35 is a problem. You can get away with a guy who's in his late 30s, even 40. But for women, it's tougher. My book, Until You, my heroine is 40. They're just divorced, and my hero's 29, almost 30.
Okay.
So that one, but I couldn't get that sold. Thule finally, Jane Porter and Kelly Hunter both read it, and they loved it, and they published it. But it would not sell to New York, even though editors read it and loved it. Sales and marketing shot it down. It wouldn't sell. So they went, no, nobody wants to read this. Nobody's interested in a woman this old. This old. She's 40. I'm laughing.
Wow.
I'm thinking about how old I am, and I'm going, I wish I was 40 again. Like,
yeah,
like I wish
it.
my skin looked like it was 40 again. But yeah, so it's very tough. There have been editors who've rejected manuscripts saying nothing interesting happens to anybody over 30.
Wow.
Oh yeah, nobody wants to read granny sex.
Wow.
Yeah,
granny sex. So it's granny sex over the age of 30?
35, over the age of 35.
Wow.
So that's where your cutoff point. It's getting better though, because there was a survey last year in Gransnet, which is a British site that they did with HQ Stories, which is HarperCollins' romance wing in the UK. And it found that women over 40 found themselves severely misrepresented in fiction.
Yes.
And that there weren't enough stories for them. So
I think the market's huge.
It's
huge.
Well,
and here's it is, and it's frustrating because it's like, oh, there's no market for biracial characters. There's no market for interracial couples. There's no market for LGBTQ. It's like there is. It's
yes, there
huge.
Is. And this
because
is a category that crosses all of those things. It crosses gender, it crosses sexuality, it crosses race, it crosses ethnicity, it crosses everything because we're all getting older.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely critical that we allow these stories to be told. So, like I said, I've got 2 books down the pike that they're both, my hero and heroine will be over 50, or at least 50 in it. Because you know what? Why not? Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
Netflix just put out a very cool movie with Rob Lowe and Kristen Davis from Sex and the City.
Yes, I saw it.
And it's called Holiday in the Wild. And they're both older. It's a seasoned romance. It is fantastic. It is so well done. It's a nice slow burn. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful story, totally believable, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And that's what we need. That's what we need, is those kinds of representations. And she stands out there in the African savannah with the elephants, and you can see her crow's feet or whatever, and it's okay. It's perfectly okay. It doesn't make her any less beautiful. So
I think actually sometimes those situations actually make them more so, because it's a feeling of, look at my story. Look how far I've come.
Mm-hmm.
Look how far I'm still going to go. And I'm glad. I'm glad for that.
Yep.
So, well, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me again. I love talking to you.
Absolutely. Everybody reading All of Me. It is Jeannie Moon's 3rd book of her Compass Coast series. And then she's got a few other books you might want to take a peek at. But All of Me, the first chapter is on her website. It's Jeannie Moon, JEANNIE Moon.com. And you can find her on Facebook and Twitter and BookBub and Instagram and all those fabulous places. And also all the links of her social media and her website will be in the write-up of the show. Thank you so much, Jeannie, and we're going to talk to you soon when your next book comes out. I want to know all about it.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.
And everybody out there, you guys keep reading.
This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
The Hollywood Reporter is your ultimate source for awards race news this fall. Go to THR.com to keep up with this award season's expert predictions from executive editor Scott Feinberg, and tune into the Hollywood Reporter's Awards Chatter podcast for exclusive interviews with the biggest names in showbiz. Stay in the loop with daily newsletters providing real-time updates on all the awards action. Subscribe to THR.com for full access to the Hollywood Reporter and never miss a moment of this fall awards season. Visit THR.com today.
Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.